Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Community. This one's a special one. We're in a studio today because we are doing a preemptive, because by the time you listen to this, the day you listen to this, it's our 4-year business anniversary.
So cute.
Oh my gosh, I'm so in awe of all the things we've done in 4 years and how quickly this has gone by. And then also, how long this took, and how hard we've worked. It's just so funny. It's both and.
I definitely have more gray hairs than when we first began, that's for sure.
I know,
it's been a fun ride.
You were in your youth when we began. I was older. Just by 2 years, but it feels like 85 years.
Our souls are different ages, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm an old soul. But I wanted to bring Maria on today to kind of talk about our biggest learnings in 4 years of business. And we did an episode a few months ago, must have been a while, maybe even a year, where it was a Call Her Daddy spinoff where we just kind of shot the shit. And people were loving it.
I was loving it.
Yeah, it was so fun. So we thought we'd bring it back. We'd chat a little bit about what we've learned over these last 4 years, what's worked, what's not worked, lessons we've learned, what's been hard, what's been great. And yeah, I gave Maria no time to prepare for this. I was on your drive today, think about what we've learned in 4 years.
I know. I think you did warn me, and I remembered we were doing a Call Her Daddy spinoff, but I couldn't remember what the topic was. But we have learned so much. I feel like we could talk about this forever. And it's funny, we were talking this morning and I was saying I actually can't remember life before this business. Mm-hmm. It just feels like it's been so a part of us and our souls it feels like longer than 4 years, but I guess 4 years is sort of a long time.
Yeah.
But I think we've learned a lot of things the hard way. So I'm excited today to share some tips with the audience of things that maybe they could learn the easy way by listening to this instead of having to go through all the stuff we went through.
Yeah. And I think that one of the things that's been so cool about the way that we've grown is not everybody has a business partner. And mm-hmm. we've been really lucky, I think, to be little besties and, growing our businesses now together. But what's been really cool, I think, is we've always kind of had the same mindset mm-hmm. around growing the business and always seeing the bigger vision for it, that it wasn't about how do we get a paycheck today, or let's create these jobs for ourselves, or whatever that looks like. It was kind of always hey, this is actually our path. We see this as the path to building our personal wealth, building our family wealth, whatever that looks like, building our big impact, how we want to give back on the earth. And most importantly, I think. And so it's been really cool for us to have that same mindset, because I think, sometimes people get into this and there's nothing wrong with this, but it's very money focused, mm-hmm. or they're I want to make $1 million in a day, or whatever that looks like, and get it. But honestly, but that hasn't really been our collective approach. So it's been cool to see how we've prioritized different things at different times that other people haven't prioritized.
Totally.
To grow our business the way we have. And I think, our CFO, Stacy, sometimes we're oh my God, we spent a lot of money on that. Or and she's kind of yeah, but you wouldn't have any of this if you hadn't done that. And so it's been neat to kind of see what we've prioritized and how it's paid.
Yeah, I think it's really cool that we both saw the big vision from the beginning, even before we knew what exactly it would look like, and that we've been so on the same page about it, because I agree. I think people at the beginning can have different priorities, and then especially if you have a business partner with different priorities, that's a whole nother story. But yeah. I think a lot of the times when people are starting out, it's hard for them to see that big vision, and then it's hard to make decisions from that place. Mm-hmm. And because we could see the vision and see where this could go, and see the possibility, and also believe in ourselves and help each other believe in ourselves more, at least more you for me. But I think that self-belief is so important, because it helps you make decisions in a way that sets you up for success with that growth. Whereas if you don't have that vision or that belief, or you're playing a little smaller, you make different decisions.
Yep. And
I mean, this is one of the things I wanted to talk about today in terms of our lessons. But I think thinking back to the beginning, we got a lot of advice. We literally had a coach who was take out a line of credit, get $100,000, pay yourselves each a really good salary, starting now. And I don't even know if we were paying ourselves at all at that point, or maybe just a little bit, but we were both no, we're not going to do that. And if we had done that, I think our business would be in a very different place than it is today. And I'm glad we didn't. So let's get into it. We have
5 minutes in, we're already spicy.
We have a lot of grievances, guys. We have a lot of grievances. We
were talking actually on the way here about how our lessons are kind of negatively coded. Because usually we're pretty high vibe. And then about everything we're don't do this and don't do that. But, that's such actually a great example of I actually don't think that person, I know that person, and we know, well, I love this person. There was no malice.
No malice.
And-
They had the best intentions, and it was actually their advice that they thought would help us grow.
And so what's so hard about running a business like this is that, like, you're going to hear so much advice from people in your business, including us, right? I give people so much advice all the time, and I'm like, do it or don't do it. Yeah. Ideally, you do it, but whatever. But what is so interesting about it is that sometimes things are going to, like, come to you, and they bounce off you. Mm-hmm. And we had such a repellent state around some advice that we got that was such a blessing, like, that I look at now, right? Where sometimes we would get advice and we'd be like, oh my God, that was genius. And we have paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for coaching, to be in the room, for programs. Mm-hmm. And I don't regret almost any of it. No. Like, there's a few where I'm kind of like, oh, I'm probably gonna have to do that one. But, like, great lesson. But a lot of the times, like, we would get advice and we'd be like, that's not for us. And actually that helped us be more discerning in the decisions that were for us.
Totally.
So if we were like, hey, actually we're not going to take out a $100,000 Amex. And, like, that's not what we're going to do. But 4 to 6 months later, we had 2 full-time employees. Mm-hmm. We were both full-time in our business. We did it. So I'm going to put, like, air quotes on slower, because to have full-time employees after a year of business is still pretty, I think, impressive. But it took some time. And I think sometimes the fast way isn't always the right way, mm-hmm. But then there's times where people take out massive amounts of debt and it really works for them.
Yeah.
And that's part of their success story. And, like, I think about Ali Webb with Dry Bar, right? Like,
yeah.
You're maxing out your cards, you're doing whatever you need to do to grow your business. And, and that's something she talks about publicly, right? It's like at the beginning, it's like not floating in cash. Mm-hmm. That was a huge payback. But, like, that's not the way we wanted to do it, right? And so, also, I think a digital business versus a brick and mortar business and what you should be taking in and out is a different thing.
Yeah.
But we learned, like, really early on that we were like, that's a no from us, and thank you so much. Blessings. And, it's not all advice is for you.
Yeah. And I think throughout this episode, there will be a little bit of not negativity, but, like, hard things that we've been through and challenges and roadblocks and things like that. But I think the reason, especially High Vibe Women, has been so successful is this mindset of, like, all of these things are actually happening for you. Mm-hmm. And we've always had that mindset thanks to a lot of our friends and the rooms we've been in and programming and things like that. But having that mindset is so key, because as a business owner, you're just going to run into these things. You're going to run into people who give you bad advice, and you're going to run into people who, don't like you and say rude things to you, and all these different things and different challenges and obstacles. And it's like how you view those is so important, right? Because, like, a lot of those could have definitely taken me down. And there were a few people who almost, like, took me down so bad where I was like, Kristina, I, like, can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And so it was, like, so good to have you to be able to pull me out of that. But I think to have that community that was always reminding us that even though these things are challenging and hard and, bringing us down sometimes, in the end, in the grand scheme of things, they were making us into the people we needed to be, and they were teaching us the lessons we needed to learn to get to the next level in our business.
I was going to say too, Maria, like, one of the things that I feel so similarly about it too, because it's like a lot of the things that have happened over the last 4 years are very, people centric and relationship centric. And that's always been so core to how we've grown. But also, it's also given us a lot of confidence dealing with some of the things we've dealt with in ways we haven't wanted to get that confidence, and I think that that's been really interesting. Like, we've worked with hundreds of businesses, like, we've, served, I think, probably close to 1,000 people in some capacity over these last 4 years. Like, we've met 5,000 people probably, like, it's been so incredible. We've, like, become friends with people we couldn't even imagine, who've become, like, mentors and friends. And, like, there's just been so much, like, growth in our business and in our lives. And I feel like a completely different person than I was, looking even back, I've been married 5 years. So we're kind of right before we got started. And I'm like, oh, Josh, you married a different human. Like, poor guy. And also, we've grown up so much, you and I, in this process. And so I think I'm grateful for a lot of these things now, right? Because we learned a lot of these lessons. But I think what was really hard is that, like, entrepreneurship is very personal.
Yeah.
And I think people are always like, it's business. Like, don't worry about this. It's business. And it is business, but there is a lot of personal aspects to it that make it challenging and make it, like, core to who you are and reflective of your personality and reflective of like the worst parts of yourself and like the things you like the most about yourself and the things you like the least about yourself. And it's like, and then you make these friends that are like soul friends in other ways too, where it's like, that's not something I really expected. Like, and Josh would always say to me, he'd be like, these aren't your friends, they're your business friends. And I'd be like, you have literally no idea. Like, we're experiencing something that is the exception, not the norm.
Yeah. And they're experiencing it with us.
Yes.
The
like,
friends, right?
We've grown up so much, like with people. Like, I think about all of our Fast Foundations friends. Like, you know, Jeanette and Steve and Stacy and Marina and like, you know, or Allie Hickswright and like all these people who were kind of like our original crew. Our businesses have all scaled in different directions. And, you know, we've brought each other along on different opportunities. And I think that's been the magic of like what we've grown over these years. And also like relationships have been, I think, some of the most challenging pieces of us growing this business the way we have.
Yeah, I think I never expected how intertwined like personal and business would be. And I think especially for me, like growing the business in COVID, being at home, like it got so intertwined because there was just like no separation too.
Yeah.
But I think when you're building a business, like especially as an entrepreneur, it's a small business, like your name's on it, your values are embedded in it, you're making all the decisions. It's a part of you.
Yeah.
It just naturally is personal. So when clients aren't happy or when people say negative things about you or when, you know, you have a negative experience with a coach or a service provider or something, like it's not, to me, it's not just business, you know?
Yeah, it's your integrity, like as a person. And it's like, I do believe, I say this all the time, people buy from people and people buy from people like over and over and over again, right? So it's like our next, like even with High Vibe Women, like why I think High Vibe Women has been as successful as it was is I think we've come to the Social Snippet with like a lot of like community and a lot of integrity and a lot of like heart. So that when we started this next thing, it was really easy for people to come with us. And so I also think we've made a lot of mistakes where, you know, like with good intentions.
Yeah.
I think that's something that's like really, I think, great about you and I in terms of, one, we get to keep each other accountable on this, but it's like, I don't think we do a lot with bad intentions.
No, I don't know that we do anything.
I was going to say anything, but, but I'm like, I don't think anyone else does either. I don't think anyone's sitting there being like, how can I screw these people over? But I think like you and I do a lot to try to seek to understand. And like, you know, even when we come across a difficult situation with somebody, like I do think you and I are the type of people who are like, why do you think they are acting that way? Or,
yeah, and like what's our stake in this sort of thing too?
What do we own and what's a lesson that we learned here? And wow, that was really a tough lesson, but like, and that cost a lot to learn, but like, glad we learned it the way we learned it. Almost to a fault. Like I think some of our biggest business mistakes have been where we haven't taken action because we've been overly empathetic.
Yeah, it's funny because I think the best qualities of us, like as humans, are almost our worst qualities in business, or they have been the last few years. I think we've learned kind of how to navigate them.
Yeah.
And trust is a huge one. Like we're both inherently so trusting. We see the best in people. When people tell us something, we believe them. We just take them at their word. You know, we believe that they're telling the truth. Like we're very empathetic. We're very relationship focused. And I think I never expected that like those things that have always been what I see as my best qualities and what people tell me are my best qualities as a human, bringing them into the business world, it's a bit of a different story because those things actually did cost us a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of heartache sometimes. And honestly, I love this episode because I think so often people look at us and talk to us and they're like, wow, you guys are killing it. It's awesome. It's so great. Everything's so great. I'm like, oh, you have no idea.
Yeah.
Like maybe we're not doing the best job of being as vulnerable as we could be on social, or I don't know what the like misread is, but like it's not all glitz and glamour over here. You know, there definitely have been like so many hard lessons and challenging moments. And what do the harders say? It's like the entrepreneurship is like the biggest personal development journey that you'll ever go on, but you like didn't sign up for.
Yeah, like no one asked for this. Well, and I think it's been so interesting because I agree, like often people will come to us and I think they've seen like the success of our business and like in the way it's grown, right? Like we scaled our business every year, like it's been like rocket shippy, right? Like, and as we've been approaching kind of the 7-figure territory, like it's been really interesting because I think people see our business and see like what we're building and are like, oh wow, this is like easy. and I'm like, nothing about this is easy. Like, and it's funny. I actually feel it more with my like non-entrepreneur friends where they're kind of like, not all of them, of course, but like a lot of them, they see this and they're kind of like, wow, it's so great. You're living in purpose. And like, you're like, you love your job. And I've loved every job I've ever done. So this is like not a new, like, it's just the way I show up in the world. But like, and I know you're similar, which I think is what makes this easy for us. Like in a lot of ways, it's because we choose the hard when we have to.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference between being like a solopreneur and you can make cuts quickly and you keep every dollar you make and whatever. And then also the difference of also being like a leader and having to make tough choices around like employees and having to make tough choices around like, investments and all of those things that like, those are the things that keep you and I up. Like we've had seasons where we talk on the phone every single day about hard choices that we don't want to make that are costing us thousands of dollars. And we're like scared to make them. But we know it's the right thing, but we don't want to hurt somebody. And we're so in it. Right. And even getting advice being like, you need to do this. And we're like, oh, but it doesn't feel good. But like, sometimes like those are the things that you need to do. And that's been like a reoccurring theme for us where things have come up for us where we're like, oh, this is really hard, but it's going to make us into the person that we want to be.
Yeah.
So we can go into those next lessons, which are over and over again. What's on your list?
Totally. I mean, this kind of ties into one of the things I was thinking, which I think like a huge lesson for me, and I feel like I struggled with this more than you, but I don't know if you struggled with it a little bit. I think I learned from you a lot in this regard, but I think I went into business not very confident, maybe in myself, but not like I just felt I had a lot of imposter syndrome. I felt like maybe we didn't really know what we were doing.
Yeah.
Neither of us went to school for business. We didn't have a ton of training.
Whenever
Really,
anyone asks
any
me about
training.
my education, I think it's just so funny because I'm pretty educated as a person. It is not really that relevant to what we do today. So it's like I'll be on a Discover call. It's up like twice ever. They're like, "What's your background?" And I'm like, "Polish." Because of like my master's in conflict resolution and my master's in leadership it comes in handy like rarely. I mean we have a common language, so it's great. But I would say we came into this a little like
and maybe it built the foundation for our business partnership. I don't know. We both went to school for the same thing. Peace and conflict studies, guys. We just want the world to be a nice little peaceful place, and it's really hard to do when you're running a business.
No one wants to be as peaceful as Maria and I. It feels like everyone's choosing violence.
They are. They wake up and choose violence. We wake up and try to choose peace, but the violence is brought upon us sometimes.
But sometimes, especially I'm pregnant, and I've been choosing violence more and more. Like I think it's like the rage of like pregnancy. My husband gets some of it, but like I'm way more blunt than I've probably ever been because I think my time is just different now. But yeah, you guys are people have been choosing violence with us.
I don't think you're choosing violence. I think you're more retaliating on the people that are choosing violence.
Yeah, maybe.
But I think you need to just be so confident in yourself and what you know to be true and your decisions because for probably the first year of our business, I was up every night at 3 a.m. like plagued by these like things clients were saying, things our employees were saying. And I think maybe because I'm so empathetic or I don't know what it is, but I just put so much weight into other people's opinions and thoughts. And when they share something, it started to make me question myself and what I knew to be true and what I thought we should do so much that I just felt so lost, where it was like, I just put 100% of the value on what other people said or wanted or asked for or said was right. And a lot of the times they weren't right. Like they were clients that were scope creeping. They were asking for unreasonable things. There were employees who weren't putting in the hours they said they were putting in. Like it was just so many things that I knew to be true deep down in my heart and my soul. But it's like, I just put so much faith in and trust and belief in what other people were saying. Yeah. And I think you did a better job of not doing that. But I would say that was a huge learning for me is I really need to just stay true to what I believe and what I know to be true and trust in myself. And of course, like still listen to people and take their opinions into consideration and make decisions from that place, but not putting 100% of the weight into what they're saying, but putting more weight into what you believe as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that when I was prepping, because I did a bit of prep and now my phone is being used for cameras. But I did, one of the things that came up for me was self-trust.
Yes, like, exactly.
That's something that I think we've really had to cultivate over the years, because it is true. We kind of came into this like everyone else does.
Yeah,
right?
That's
like,
the thing.
Everyone comes into this being like, I don't know how to do anything. How do you do this? How do you learn everything? We had a little business before this, and that was our training ground, right? I really believe that's where we learned how to do what we need to do for today. Mm-hmm. It took a bit of time. And so I think now what's cool about it and cool about like what we're doing is like, we operate from like such a place of self-trust where like you and I are both kind of like, what do you think about that? Like, it's very rare we disagree on stuff. And when we do disagree on stuff, it's always kind of like, let's sleep on it and come back. And like, you know, and then we come back and it's always with so much like trust and respect. And we're always like, you know, open to the other person. Like if the other person has a stronger feeling about something, and they have a lot of like intuition around, and I mean that like in the least woo-woo way.
No, I'm just laughing because Ben is a result of this.
Yes. Okay, Ben is a result of this because we had decided no more co-op students, and that was like a decision we had kind of intentionally made. And then I had met Ben at an event, and Ben kind of pitched us on being a co-op student. Well, actually, he applied and then rejected us, and then creeped our stories for a semester. And we would screenshot it, be like, the one that got away. Like, me and Loretta would always laugh about this. But anyway.
I was going to say we. I wasn't
Loretta
screenshotting.
and I were always like, this man. But he pitched us, and then he came to work with us, and he was so fabulous in those 4 months. And then he worked with us part-time, and then now he works with us full-time, and he's technically our only, like, full-time employee now.
Yeah.
A bunch of people that work, like, pretty close to full-time. But that was, like, I was very, like, I think this is the right thing to do. And you were kind of like, I'm going to be honest, like, I don't, like, based on the money aspect
Sorry,
of
Ben.
And I was like, I was very confident. Like, I was like, I think it's a God thing. Like, I'm feeling, like, very strongly intuitively about this. And then you were kind of like, and this, we've had a few decisions like this where you were kind of like, okay, like, if you feel that strongly about this, I'm like, I'm not going to fight you on this. And like, and I'm not going to tell you I told you so at the end either, if it hadn't worked out, which thank you.
Thank God it did.
Thank you, Ben, for all of your hard work. But I think that that's actually a great example, because I think it's really easy when we have, when we have like challenges in our business, like people always are so curious about our relationship. Like they're always like, oh, like, cause I'm like pretty like dominant and personality wise, and you're less dominant, but like very strong willed, and you have like such a strong like presence. And so people always ask, they're like, well, what happens when you and Maria fight? And I'm like, we don't really fight.
Yeah, we don't fight.
And when we disagree, it's so rare that like the other person is like, if you feel that strongly about this, then like I will buckle under for this because like I trust you so much.
Yeah.
And I think that like comes from also us developing a lot of self-trust, where like I made tons of mistakes in the business, like tons of them. And, you know, one I can think of like pretty much cost us 6 figures.
Yeah.
And it was because I didn't watch somebody we worked with close enough. And like it was a freelancer kind of situation and all of that. And I had a lot of empathy for something that this person was going through. And I should have been tighter with it. And I wasn't, because I was like, oh, like it'll get done. Like it'll get done. And it never did. Mm-hmm. And that is still a mistake we pay for every week. But what was so interesting about that is that when I came to you about it, I was like, I'm so freaking sorry. Like you've left this with me. And like, I really should have been like more on it. And you were kind of like, no problem. Like I didn't want to be doing it either. Like it's fair.
I mean, I also could have been looking over that person, you know?
Yeah. And I think it's just like that self-trust of us, like, you know, it also kind of includes like the trust that we've built in each other, which I think has been like one of our biggest blessings. But I think like that's something that if anybody has a business partner or you're thinking about getting a business partner, I think that it's like imperative. Like it must be part of like the way you grow your business is like really having that implicit trust.
Yeah. The implicit trust, the respect. And I also think both people have to be really committed to personal development. Mm-hmm. Like you cannot get out of this without facing all of your inner demons and your shit and your shadows and like the worst parts of yourself, the best parts of yourself. Like you need to be on a personal development journey as an entrepreneur, especially if you have a business partner, I think. Mm-hmm. And I think too, I feel like when a lot of people start their own businesses, I don't want to like talk badly about people, but I think there's a lot of ego that can get involved where It's like, this is mine. And like, I think it can kind of get a little bit out of control. And I think you and I do a really good job of humbling ourselves a lot and like just being humble in general, where we're like, I don't know. And like, I'm never going to judge you for making a mistake like that, because I could and would make the same mistake. Yeah. So it's like, if I'm I need to do the self-work to be able to forgive myself, forgive you, and understand that these things happen. And, you know, none of us are perfect. We're just doing our best. So like, what's the point of being like, why did you do this? Like, totally. No, who cares? We all make mistakes. Like we're human, right? So I think you need to be committed to the personal development journey too.
Well, yeah. And there's so few things in business that aren't fixable.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's something too that is really easy. We joke like on our team about the spiral, like about how like, you know, something bad will happen and we like jump into the spiral or like kind of deep in, but it's like, it's so rare that we've come across something that we haven't been able to fix or like find the resource to be able to pivot or whatever that looks like. I think that's such a big piece of it. And being okay with that. I think like us having the same mindset around you know, we obviously knew each other really well before this business, which it made it super easy to get started.
For sure.
But I think one of the best things about us is that like we see each other's like huge light. We're each other's biggest fans. Like,
Yeah.
you know, we're the person that we're like, you can do anything. I know that. Like, and you pump me up the same. Like, it's like we're so in that. And also, I'm like, oh, I know that thing is gonna stress Maria the fuck out, and like I'm not gonna get her to do it because like I know that that's gonna cause her too much stress, and it's like vice versa, right? Like I cannot sign a PDF. I cannot.
If you've ever gotten a PDF signed by Kristina Bartold, just a spoiler alert, it wasn't Kristina Bartold.
It's not me. I don't know how to do it. I have the signature on, and people are like, just slide it. It doesn't slide. I don't understand. I have a mental block on this and Excel spreadsheets.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's just, it does not compute in my brain.
Like, to the point where instead she'll create a table in a Word doc.
Yeah, dude. I'm not even sorry about that.
Resourceful.
Yeah, like, I've gotten this far. I said to Ben recently, and I repeated it to you today, that, like, we were setting something up, and I asked, am I old enough now where, like, I don't need to learn any more tech, and I could just be, like, dependent on the youth around me, and we've decided no. So
You're still a youth, okay?
Yeah, I need another 3 or 4 years. But, yeah, like, I think it's just, like, knowing each other's strengths has been so helpful, and I think both knowing each other's strengths and also being okay to, like, stretch each other. Mm-hmm. You know, sometimes I get a PDF. I'm just kidding, but I'm just...
She really challenges herself.
I would say within our business, I'm more confident with certain things that, like, have been helpful, I think, for the scaling of our business.
Yeah, I think you're also more confident with just, like, new things and going into things not really knowing and just kind of, like, winging it, too. Which is so helpful when you're starting a business, thank God.
Yes, I think so, but then also, if this was my own thing, I always say this, I'm like... Because you always say that. You're like, oh, if I did this alone, I'd have 3 clients and there'd be no employees and I'd just be sitting there, you know, making Instagram posts and like, you know, whatever. And if I did this alone, I would have the $100,000 Amex. Like, you know, like, I would be like,
a yacht might be involved at this point.
But it's like we keep each other grounded to be like, okay, like what is actually needle moving? Like, you know, even high vibe women. Like I was kind of the like, what if we ran a big event? And you were like, I don't know. I don't like public speaking. I don't know. Like, will we make money? Like, I don't know. Like, will people find that impactful? Like, we have so much going on. Like, we're scaling this other business. And then now this is the favorite thing that, like, you do, I think.
Yeah.
But it's like, I'm more confident in that kind of stuff. But also, I need your, like, hands to bring things to life. You know? Like, where it's, like...
A little bit of grounding.
Yeah, and your brain. Like, I think, build good systems around stuff. And I think it's, like, knowing those strengths where sometimes it's, like... I don't like being corrected, like as a human. Remember Josh Jovanovich told all those people I don't like being coached? It's the truth. I don't love it. But I think like with you, we have such a trusting, respectful relationship that like over the years, like where you've been like, I don't like that, or like, I don't want to do it that way, or like, I don't agree with this. Like the very few times I have so much like respect for you and your skills and your thought process that like, I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it is, thanks. You're so sweet. And I think it's important to find, like, if you are going to enter a business relationship or even any kind of like partnership, to have someone who has skills that complement yours or are a bit different. I think the values need to be super aligned and the trust and respect needs to all be there. And like looking at the amount of time we've known each other in hindsight, it's like really God was really putting in work there of like really set us up with like the friendship, the mentorship relationship, your other business, like all the things we went through before we started, I think just set us up perfectly to do this. But I think our skills are complementary, and paired with that like trust and respect, it's just made this journey like so amazing. Like I never would do this without you. And so glad that we have a second business now and maybe a third in the future. Who knows?
Yeah, and poor Ben.
Ben's the third that's been roped into this chaotic mess now. Hot Mess Express. It's a lot less Hot Mess Express than it used to be.
Oh my goodness. I think this is the best year our business has ever had
totally,
so far.
Yeah.
And not only financially, yes, but also I think like we're actually like not in the place where I just felt like at the beginning, it's because it's been 3 years full time, 1 year of like kind of side hustle. At least for me, more of a side hustle. I felt like at the beginning, like everything, you're like, like everything, you're just like, I like this opportunity. Do we do this? Do we do that? Like this partnership, like, do we go here? Do we do this? And now I'm so much more comfortable being like, no.
Yeah.
Or like I meet someone and like, I think is really easy. This was one of my lessons that I wrote down. Is like early on, every opportunity feels like a good one.
Mm-hmm.
And you have these conversations with people and they like promise you the world, or like, you know, you're brainstorming and you're like bringing kind of a vision to life or something like that. And the opportunities sometimes like never come to fruition, or they do and they're bad, or they're like tough or like difficult, and that has been one of the greatest lessons of like self-trust and sometimes lack of trust in others. And I feel like that's a horrible thing to say. I'm like, this is bad. Like, sorry, YouTube. But like, I like now am in a position where like people need to work a little harder to earn my trust than I was at the beginning, where every opportunity felt great. And I was going to pour a ton of time into it. And I was going to drive to all these meetings, and I was going here and I was going there. Now I'm a little more like, show me some bacon and we make breakfast together. But like I need a little time over here.
No, the reason I'm laughing is because I also wrote "Don't trust people" down. Let's dive more into that. But first, I want to touch your other point about the like opportunities, because I think that's such a good one and such an important one. Don't say yes to every opportunity. And to tie into the self-trust thing, for me, even if every opportunity was a good opportunity, when I said yes to every opportunity, I couldn't give the business what it needed because I was too burnt out.
Yeah.
So like, even if they are all amazing and the best opportunities ever, if you say yes to all of them and then you have to do all the work to participate in or execute all these opportunities, then you can't actually, like, I didn't even have time to like think about what I wanted for the business or what would be impactful for the business or whatever, you know what I mean? And I was like tired, losing my hair, like rashes, like I was like, my body was shutting down. It was like, it got crazy out there, guys. All because I was just saying yes to everything and not trusting myself that I, you know, needed rest. I needed breaks. I needed to like just say no to some things, because when you're starting and you're getting all these opportunities, it feels like a no-brainer to just say yes to them all. And I think it isn't always smart to say yes to them all.
No, and I think especially like there's this saying, I like don't know it off by heart because it's not something I live by, but it's like scattered focus is scattered results or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is the truth. And like, I'm like multi-passionate AF. So it's like tough for me because I'm like, I love to like do so many things. And, you know, we almost bought a co-working space a few years ago. Like it's been like, you know, I've been getting after it on the business ideas. The other day I was like, do I buy a boomer business and get like a dry cleaning place? And
oh, wow.
I know, but I don't think Ben wants to run a dry cleaning place. So it's tough, right? Because I'm like, I'm not going to run the dry cleaning place. But
I like how Ben's the new me. You know, I'm topped out on these ideas. You're like, try Ben.
But the thing that's different is that I bring these ideas to Ben, and him and I have the same spirit around getting things done.
Yeah.
And you are so much more thoughtful with the way that you're like, I don't know if I have capacity for that. And Ben's like, so I built out a business plan and it's 4 p.m. And I'm like, no, that's the same. But I think like it's like at the beginning you get so many cool opportunities, everything seems great, and I don't want to like discourage people from doing things like because some of the greatest lessons we've had in our business have been the things we've said yes to that have felt stretchy, that have felt like not the time, that have felt like, you know, like maybe
we're not ready, or
we
don't belong in that room.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. But there is also a time where partnership has to be partnership. And I think that that's something that we have experienced firsthand, where we, like, you know, early on, like lots of people made a lot of promises, and there was like a lot of like that kind of stuff that would happen. And we put a lot of energy into that, money into that, time into that, discounts into that, because we thought it would turn into something more, and it never did. And now I'm a lot more discerning in those types of partnerships, where I'm kind of like, okay, like, you know, we've made millions of dollars in this business. Like we've done like lots of work in partnership with lots of people, but it has to be aligned. And now I have like a bit more of a checklist of that, rather than, and even opportunities, like we get asked all the time, like, hey, like, why don't you come to this event? Hey, come speak here. Like, hey, do you want to do this? Yesterday we got an opportunity that someone was like, hey, to join this group. And we were both kind of like, no. Like, and only because we were like, we like are at max capacity. We've got too much going on. Like, and then another kind of group came up, and then you and I were kind of texting back and forth. We were like, well, that might be a maybe. You know, because that actually feels more aligned with where we want the business to go, right? So I think it's like not all opportunities are like needed. And I think finding the ones that, like, over time, you're going to make some mistakes. You're going to join the wrong mastermind. You're going to invest in the wrong, you're going to go to an event and you're going to be like, this was the worst event I've ever been to. Hopefully it's not one of ours, but like, you're going to go to something and you're going to be like, wow, that was a huge waste of my time. And really like those are lessons for you to be able to figure out what is a good use of your time.
Totally.
And that has been such a blessing for us where sometimes like people will be like, oh, come to this event. There's 3,000 people there. I'm like, so I'm never going to get return on that investment. Like I don't do well in big rooms. I like smaller rooms. I hate going to things by myself. Like all this stuff. You love that shit.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
love me a 3,000 person room.
Yes, she comes and she makes all these friends, and I'm like, "How did you meet these people?" She'd be like, "I'm going out for dinner with these people. Do you want to come?" I'm like, "No, I don't know them." Like, but it's like, but if I'm in a small room,
yeah,
like that's the best thing for our business and for like my personal relationships, right? So it's like, I think it's like really knowing that. So anyway, long tangent before we get into the me and trust one, is that like opportunities are not always good, and being able to figure out which ones are is magic in your business.
Totally. And I think learn how to say no respectfully and remember that it's okay to say no.
And hold on to that when people say no to you.
Yes.
Because I think that's something too where like now I'm in a huge season of saying no. Like this is like the biggest, like I've never been in a season like this because I'm a yes girl. I'm like total people pleaser. I do things I don't want to do. I travel across the country for a one-day thing so that I can people please, like, and now I'm in a season where that's just like absolutely not possible.
Yeah.
And I have now a new respect for when people say no to me. Mm-hmm. Because before I'd be like, how dare they? Like, how could they, like, or when I invite someone to do something. But like even this year I've been invited to like 5 or 6 peer-to-peer masterminds.
Yeah.
I would love to do a peer-to-peer mastermind. I'm exhausted. I don't have time for it. Like, and I'm just being honest. And it's because I don't want to show up badly.
Yeah.
I'd rather not be part of it than show up badly and people think I think I'm too good for something or whatever that looks like. And so, that's just my point too, is like also having that like respect for other people when they say no.
Yeah. And I think you can say no in a way that still can feel really good for someone, right?
Yeah.
Like if, let's say we had a mastermind and we invited someone to join and they were like, you know what? Thank you so much for thinking of me. Like that is so sweet. I love what you guys are doing. I love the message behind your mastermind. I love this thing about it. I love that thing about it. It looks like it's so impactful.
Yeah.
I'd love to like share it with my community if someone is asking me about or masterminds to join. But at this point, I'm super laser focused on this part of my business, and I'm at capacity with my commitments right now. And I don't think I'd be able to show up in a way that would really be beneficial for the group. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to pass. Like that would feel so good if somebody wrote me that email. I'd be like, amazing, sounds great, like, no problem, So I think there are really nice ways to say no. And then I think you have a great point. Sometimes you just gotta try stuff to figure out what works, what's worth it, and what's not. Trust your intuition. And then the last thing I think is figure out, like, weigh the pros and cons of it. Like if someone's asking you for a collaboration and the collaboration is like, we're going to make you an affiliate code and you could like, you would maybe post it on your stories a few times. Like, okay, that's like, it's not a huge, you don't have to do a lot, right?
Yeah.
But if it's like, hey, can you come speak at my event in Texas? It's like, okay, that I have to fly there. That's probably 3 or 4 days. I have to, it's a financial investment. It's this, it's that. So like weighing what it's going to cost you energetically and financially, I think is important too.
And when you take on too many opportunities, it actually weakens the opportunities you're doing, right?
Yes.
Because if you're like, so we get this a lot where people ask us to like post about stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'm always at a bit of a loss because it's easy to do. It would take me 1 second to be like, hi, my friend's running this program. Hi, we've got this, whatever. If I do that for everybody who asks, and this is why we do not do it on the High Vibe Women page.
Yeah.
Unless it's a sponsorship opportunity, we're not posting.
Yeah.
We don't even post our own stuff on there. We had an offer, and it was you. Actually, you tagged that you posted a social business club thing yesterday, and you tagged High Vibe Women. I didn't repost it.
Yeah.
Because it was like, it's not a good look. Like for us, and I don't think you did it with any intention, but it's like, I was like, oh, like we can't start doing that because we're setting the precedent of like, we don't post on that page.
Right.
So it's like, I'm just very aware of the fact that like I have to be, and you do as well, and we do have to be choosy about our opportunities because then it loses its impact.
Totally.
And also if we're selling for everybody else, when it comes time to sell for ourselves, it's hard because we're always selling. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's been really interesting too, because I've found over the years, they have a lot of expectations of us, like a lot of asks. And so it's been really interesting to try to figure out like, what is that hell yeah for us. Like that is a slam dunk opportunity, or like slam dunk affiliate opportunity, or relationship opportunity. We love to pour into the relationships that we have. And what's the stuff that we're kind of like, I'm really sorry, there is a way I can support you. I'd love to, but it's not going to be a social media post.
Yeah, totally. And in-person stuff too. Like if you're in 5 masterminds and you're like tired and resentful and you're like, oh, I'm taking so much time away from my family. And your husband's like, why are you going on so many trips? And like all these things are piling up. Then when you go to the mastermind, are you going to show up the same way as if you were in one mastermind that you were so excited about, that you like went to once or twice a year, that you brought all your energy to and had all these intentions of people you wanted to connect with? And you know what I mean? It's just, you bring a different energy to it when you're more intentional and focused on, I guess, less.
Well, yeah, that's why I cut back so much this year. It's like early on when I was first pregnant, I went to a bunch of stuff and I slept through everything. Like there were things
she would text me confessions like, I'm so sorry, I just slept for 4 hours. I'm like, you don't have to apologize for taking pregnancy naps.
I was in a $50,000 mastermind. Like it was like I was doing the math on like what these naps were costing me, and I was like laying in bed, and I was like, oh my god, another $5,000 burned today. I like was just like, I can't do this, but I also knew I would sit there, and I was like, my eyes were closed permanently, and then so I canceled a whole bunch of stuff in the winter that I had already committed to doing, in a respectful, kind way, and so I think it's like. Yeah, I think the opportunity thing, I can't say enough. It's like just best to show up the best that you can.
Okay, should we get into the not trusting people? This is a tough one. But I think this is the biggest lesson we've learned, because we just started out with such innocent little naive trusting nuggets.
Chicken nuggets in the air fryer.
And I'm still trusting, but I think the discernment is the right word when it comes to business decisions. Yeah. Because especially with the rise of the interwebs, people can kind of say whatever they want. Yeah. They can kind of claim whatever they want.
And do.
And they do. And a lot of the times, even even early on, the people we looked up to who had built these massive agencies or businesses or really cool things, we ended up discovering that a lot of that was just a lie, or just a facade, or just something that people were showing on social media. And the reality of just like living on planet Earth is that people are going to lie. And, that's okay. But I think the takeaway is like, for me, trusting, sure, being open and friendly with people, but having the discernment of, tangible proof, not investing too much before you kind of see what the investment will bring to the business. Yeah. Honestly, I would say intuition, but a lot of these people really had me. There's one in particular, guys, who we almost gave like multiple tens of thousands of dollars to this like agency coach who had like scaled all of these agencies. I don't even know if that was any of this was real or not, but like the whole thing was just a scam, and we would have lost these multiple tens of thousands of dollars if we had agreed to this. And my intuition on it was actually that this person was trustworthy, I thought.
Yeah, like he still texts me telling me he's praying for me. I would love him to stop praying for me because I don't know where he's praying.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like it's like these people are out there and they like what is that thing? Sheep. Devil sheep's clothing. What is that saying?
Oh, I don't know that I know. I don't think it's a devil.
Wolf?
Wolf. It's a wolf. It's a wolf. Devil really went strong with it.
This is why we need 2 brains here, guys, at the Social Snippet, at least, for all sayings.
Wolf in sheep's clothing. Yeah, exactly.
But it was such an eye-opening experience, and it was actually my intuition on it. That was kind of like, I was like, it was. We were also like financially, it didn't really make sense, and we were just investing in Chris's mastermind, so it would have been like real tight. But he had so many promises, and you know what? Actually, it was the moment, and like this is like getting probably too specific, but like this,
whatever.
Yeah, it's like now like he's a known scam artist, so I think it's okay. But like what was actually the turning point for me, and where I was like, okay, I know that this isn't right, is. He said something to me about how I said, it's not a right now thing, but I would love to keep this in the future. And he said, there's like, basically like, you're going to be in the same spot in 4 months. And like, he had said it in a very manipulative way. Like it was very like, you're going to be in the same spot in 4 months.
He was like, I think it was something about the cost of you not making this decision now and being in the same spot in 4 months is like going to be way more detrimental than just making this investment or something.
Yes. Like, and that he basically wanted the money up front. Like there were like a lot of pieces to it that weren't making sense. And I was kind of like, oh, it's a no. And then we actually had a friend who was pretty scammed by him. And which was super unfortunate. Luckily, it was like not even close to the investment we were going to make. So like a huge blessing for her. But like what was so interesting about that experience was that was such a thing of self-trust. We'd met this guy in person. Like we knew him. Like, you know, because people can tell you anything.
Yeah.
Anything. They can tell you anything. And a mistake we've made over and over again is like people tell us these things and we're like, oh, they must know what they're talking about because they said it.
Yeah. And I think when people claim to be an expert in something that we're not an expert in, we tend to believe that they're an expert in that thing. And then that thing's going to give us results.
And I think the thing that's so interesting is that you and I never call ourselves experts.
No.
Like ever. Like it's like even now, like it's like I'll go on podcasts or something. They're like social media, like expert. And I'm kind of like, I mean, not as much as anyone else could be. Like I don't know like anything else. Like how much is happening on social media every day? Somebody messaged me the other day. They're like, what is this? I'm like, great question. I do not know. But we're I would say community building experts, but like I would never call myself that probably not unless I was forced to. And so it's just so interesting that like we've made this mistake like
many times
where we've hired people or we've worked with people, we've collaborated with people, and it's been a total cluster.
Yeah.
And a big part of that has been because one, we like no self-trust like in this like or like we've been kind of like, oh, we just like agree like yeah. And it's been like thousands and thousands of dollars. But so I think it's also knowing like when you're hiring people, like really doing that work of like, is this something you need in your business?
Yeah.
Is this like a fool's gold kind of situation? Is this something that is actually going to move the needle?
Yeah. This kind of ties into my next point, but I do just want to quickly say, I think the reason we had to learn this lesson so many times, so many lessons, is because it can happen in so many different ways, right? Like it's been like, I've interviewed people who claim all these things in the interview process, and then turns out none of that was true. And then because of what they say in the interview process, I, maybe create a more personal relationship with them, or I share a little bit more with them. And, I believe that we're both being honest, and then it ends up that they weren't being honest. And then it makes it really challenging to navigate that relationship then, because we said certain things or made promises or created a relationship based on sort of a lie. And then it's like, how do you go back on that? And then those people usually double down. Anyway, so I think my point is it can happen in so many different areas. So for us, it's happened with hiring people, both freelancers and employees. It's happened with outsourcing to like experts who do like services and things like that, who claim they, are going to like skyrocket our business through X, Y, and Z. And we're like, okay, great. Like would love to pay you for this service. Then it goes on, then they have different excuses for why it's not working. And then it kind of keeps getting dragged on. And then it's also happened with coaches like that. Yeah. That one was almost, that would have been the worst one if we gave that man money. But I think it's just so easy for it to happen in so many different ways. And so when you go in as such a trusting person who believes in people, it's hard to know that they might not be telling you the truth.
And you don't want to believe that in people, right. Like I think that's the other piece about you and me is that it has actually made me probably like a better service provider.
Yeah.
Because I'm just so honest with people about like what's happening and like what we can do and what we won't be doing, and even in our scarce seasons, where like I was just thinking earlier this year, we had like a bit of like a, like the economy, like everybody had like a bit of a more scarce season probably in the month of February. And I did a discovery call with someone in the first week of March, and I was literally like, could the team do this? Yeah. Should the team do this? No.
Yeah.
And so I called our friend Monica Boudreau. I said, hi, I have a referral for you. I think this is a good fit for you. Like, and that sometimes takes integrity over, like, over really acting in that scarcity of, like, not all money is good money. And that's actually one of the biggest lessons I've learned.
Yeah.
Is that, like, there's so much money. I would love to give back to people. I won't be doing it, but I would love to give back to people because it caused so much headache that it's like you don't even want those experiences. And I have had it where people who are so difficult, and they've been difficult over and over again, they come and they're like, hi, I have a potential client for you. And I'm like, no, thanks.
Yeah.
Like, it's not worth it. And I'm so appreciative you're thinking about me, and I actually have somebody I can refer you to. And, like, but I just, not all money is good money. And I think that that's where it's like the trust with the people is just so important.
Yeah, not all money is good money is a great lesson. At the beginning, we were like, we'll take any client, we'll do whatever you want. Like, it's all good. We accept. And like the more that time has gone on, the less and less we've been like that. And I think it's like impacted our mental health. It's impacted our team's mental health when we have clients that just aren't an aligned fit for the business and the services. And sometimes people are just rude, and like, you don't have to be okay with that.
Yeah, I think that's another good lesson too, is that like people are people, right? And the way that something that has come up for me a lot in the business was like, I used to take it. So, you're talking about how I'm like more confident in some areas. This is an area I'm less confident in than you. But I used to take it so personally when people stopped working with us because I would build these really personal relationships with our clients. I'm in a totally different season, where I do have a lot of really, really strong relationships with lots of our clients. And I like actually every single client we have, I love their business. Like, cause I do all the sales at this point, right? So it's like I meet people and I'm like so excited about what they're up to. And I really do love their businesses. Like there's businesses I feel like I own. And so I love working with like all different types of businesses. I love like seeing them like come to fruition. I love all of that. And also if they stop working with us, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
I think it was really difficult at the beginning to separate kind of those personal client relationships. Like, when clients would pause working with us, or, if somebody didn't have a good experience, or like, they'd work with one of our freelancers and it wasn't a fit, like, all of those things would really like weigh on me. And I would feel so personally burned by them, even if they weren't good clients.
Yeah, totally.
And now I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned is like, we've had clients, come join us, and early on we're like, oh, this is actually not a fit. And I'm so much less attached to the financial implications of it, because I'm so much more in the energy of like, it's actually just making space. We're making space for like a better, more aligned client. And I want our clients to be happy clients. And most of the time they are. We've got 85 happy happy clients. And so I want to keep that going. And the time that we're spending like agonizing over these people who, aren't good fits, I'm getting on the phone with them constantly. And it was me who was having to do all these things, when there's so many clients we barely ever talk to, because they're so happy with their social media manager, right? And so I think that was just such a good learning for us, like around like early stage too, is that there are going to be people, no matter how good your business is, that don't like it.
Totally.
And
totally
don't like the way you do things, or you don't do it the way that you want them to, or like even with high-vibe women, like, we like we joke about this, but like our enemy list is growing a little.
And not because we want it to.
No, I just don't like, one of our engagement people engaged with somebody who I was like, that person, they hate me. Like, and I would like prefer that we didn't engage with that person, but like, couldn't have given you a list of enemies on the front end,
No,
but
definitely not.
We're joking about enemies, like as the word, but it's more just like, there's gonna be people who don't like what you're up to.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's so much about them and not about you, that like you dwelling on it, which is what we typically still do sometimes.
Yeah.
It can be really hard.
Well, I think it's hard to discern like what's real and like valid, and what's someone just projecting all their stuff onto you. Because I think, honestly, like I'd say like 90% of the time when people are coming at you, it's like just a self-projection of like, even for us, I think with High-Vibe Women, when we're showing up in this way and creating this idea and bringing this movement forward, it's like, it's triggering for a lot of people, and maybe they're not showing up the way they want to show up, or maybe they have like sisterhood wounds, or like whatever it might be that's troubling them. Then it makes them feel like they have to give us this feedback, or sometimes they're rude, or whatever it is, right? So I think it's hard for us because we care so much. So we're like, oh, is this valid? Like, should I not be showing up in this way?
Yeah.
Or is this just a projection of this person's own insecurities and inner woundings and trauma that they need to heal, right?
Yeah. And that's hard.
Very hard.
Because I think for me, it's like, that's my initial reaction to these things is defensiveness. Like always, like, and even sometimes we find this with I feel it way more with High-Vibe Women than I do with the Social Snippet, because with the Social Snippet, often I can kind of see the full picture. Like I can see sometimes where, oh, we're actually not a fit for that client because they need to be spoken to 24/7. And that's actually like, we're just not a full-time employee. And that's actually just not a fit. Or wow, that freelancer that we work with, or a team member that we work with, like, they actually made a mistake there. And recently even, like, we made a mistake, and I was not too proud to go to the person saying, this is where I think things went off the rails. Here's our part in it. Like, that's fine. But I do think on the High-Vibe Women thing, I'm so much more sensitive to it, because it feels like a piece of our heart. Like, where we're, like, showing up, and it's so attached to our personality. Like, it's so attached to how we, like, love to do business. So when people don't like things about it, I actually am okay with people not liking things about it. And I love feedback. When people are like, hey, actually, like, could you do this? Or
Yeah.
could it be done like this? Or have you ever thought about this?
Especially when it's delivered in a kind, respectful way like
Love.
that. We love. Give it to us.
Love.
Give it to us.
Yeah, give it to us in the forum. Tell us in person. Send us a voice note. Like, we love that. When it's done in a disrespectful way. And that actually has really taught me about like the way I show up at events. Being an event host is like, there have been events I've went to where I'm like very hungry or very tired or
thirsty.
Or like the speakers didn't hit or it ran over schedule or whatever that looks like. And before I would be like, oh, like that was annoying. Like, and I'd say it to a trusted friend or two. Now I have so much more empathy for like event hosts, and I'm always happy to give feedback, and I always fill out the form and I always give the feedback, but I try really hard not to do it in a disrespectful way. And I think often something that we've come across, and I'll link in the show notes. We'll link in the show notes the episode we did about like being chosen as a speaker at High Vibe Women.
Yeah, that
has been such a triggering thing for you and I, where like people have been really upset with us or felt like we weren't giving them opportunities, or and have been really public about it and the way they talk about it, and it's never really to us, and it always kind of comes back, and that has been really hard for us and really relationship damaging. Not with each other, but like with other people, because like we get hundreds of applications for these 9 speaker spots.
Yeah.
And we meet the most amazing people, and part of like what we've wanted to do is like bring our network in on it. And we've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars to be in rooms where we know people who've had $25 million in exits, like, and they want to come speak at High Vibe Women. And it's like, yeah, of course, like show us what's possible. And we also want to give opportunities to like Canadian women who are like getting started and who have an amazing niche. And like, it's been like this balancing act. And that has been really hard for me, is like how personally I take like people being upset about this piece of our business.
Yeah. I think there's kind of 2 sides, like for me. One is I feel like people get upset when they don't get the results they want from something we're providing. So whether they come to a High Vibe Women event and they're expecting it to skyrocket their business and then nothing happens in their business after, or they hire the Social Snippet and they want to skyrocket their business and then it doesn't skyrocket or whatever, right? It's like my problem with that, and I think the way I digest it, is like, if you want results in your business, you need to show up.
Yeah, 100%.
And like, we're creating spaces and environments and resources and support with our team on the social media side and the podcasting side to help you be successful, but we can't do 100% of the work.
Yeah.
Like, you have to show up. You have to be the one who's like moving the needle in your business, and we're there to support and we're there to create the environment for you to be successful. But it's like, they also have to put in some of that work. And I think the people that are really kind of rude and disrespectful towards us are the people that don't put in that work and then are upset that we didn't, do 100% of the work when we can't, when it's your business,
And again, we're so open to feedback. Like, if there's something we can do to help facilitate that, like, we're always so happy to, but I think it's like the way it's shared and the way that, like, if you don't get the results you're looking for, like, I'll give you an example. Like, when we've made investments in the past, like, I think the reason we've gotten such strong ROI from our investments, and there's people who will be like, Kristina Barthold can scrape any room she's in for clients. Like, this is like a thing people say about me. And I do not scrape for clients.
No,
like, I don't believe that. I give a lot of value. I try really hard. Like, at least that's what I think. And we get clients that come from rooms we've been in 4 years ago still, which is such a gift. And what I will say is enthusiasm and like the way in which we show up in those spaces has been the key to the success.
Totally.
And I remember Chris saying that to me before I did the Elite Mastermind, because we were like just past 500K Canadian. So technically, like, to do the Elite, you need to be like 500K plus USD, but it was like the potential to make, which we did that year afterwards. But, and then some. But when I went to Chris, I said, Chris, like, do you think I'm going to like make a return on this? And I'm like, I'm not looking to, actually, I don't love selling to people in masterminds that I'm in. I'd actually rather sell to their friends. Like, I'd love to be like a referral partner. And I was like, do you think I'm going to get a good ROI? Because like, these people are so far along in business. I'm just like, we're just getting started, and, this great opportunity, like, they came to us and asked us, and like, but I don't know if this is the right thing. And Chris was like, every room you're in, you show up in, and that's how you get the results of it. He's like, you don't come into those rooms and not talk to people. I book follow-up calls with people. I give people advice, and then I check in with them.
You're happy, you're high vibe, you're excited.
Yeah, I'm stoked. I just like want to chat with people. And it's like our friend Jake Kelfer. Like, Jake is like the most enthusiastic man about books and life. Like, I'm like, Jake makes me look low vibe, always. But what I will say is that, like, his enthusiasm is what sells. It's not about, like, you know, maybe people don't want to write a book, I don't know, but people want to be in his energy. And I think for us, it's been, like, really about, not people wanting to be in our energy necessarily, but, like, when I'm joining something or I'm going to a room, it's absolutely my responsibility to get the return.
Totally.
It is not, I have gone to events, I don't blame somebody because I didn't get a return on the event.
Totally.
It's, you know, I can think of an event I went to this past year. I don't think I got a return on it, or we got a return on it. Did I show up 100? No. Mm-hmm. So if I had shown up 110 and I didn't get a return, then yeah, maybe that's actually not a great fit of an event. But I didn't show up the way I wanted to show up. And so I get mad about it. And I think with High Vibe Women, what's been so interesting about this is that, like, instead of people coming and being like, hey, I wasn't selected as a speaker, I would love some feedback on how I can best serve your audience. Do you think that, like, maybe we could, you know, we don't have super capacity for, like, coffee chats with everybody on that, but, like, do you think maybe you could send me a voice note on, like, that? I have had because I do a lot of the application stuff, so many people where I'm like, I think they actually be a good speaker. They put in a really shitty application. Mm-hmm. Or they actually put in an application that isn't actually for entrepreneurs. Like, their topic is not specific enough, you know, and I'm like, I wish I would have the opportunity to tell them that. But people don't ask and immediately are kind of like, oh, I'm never going to be selected. Like, they choose, you know, these people or that. Like, and I think it's, like, just remembering, like, in those situations, like, I've definitely applied to speak at things and haven't been selected. Mm-hmm. And I don't make it about the other speakers. I don't make it about the event host. I always email and ask for feedback. And it's always fascinating when I get back.
And you don't make it about yourself. Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing is, like, and I love what you said about taking responsibility for what you're going to get out of these experiences. And I think it's also about being open-minded to what you could get out of it. Yeah. So if you go, like, we were at an event recently where I was watching a presentation where I was like, I could give this presentation. Like, I know just as much as this person about whatever they were talking about. And so I was like, okay, so what could I learn from this? I looked at her outfit and learned, okay, really cool how she put that together. Love that. For next time I'm on stage, I could take notes from that. I was looking at her presentation. Love that font. Love the way she structured this. Like, so if you have an open mind and that high vibe mindset, I think there is so much you can learn from every experience. But if you're going in with that mindset of, like, oh, I'm not going to get anything out of this, like, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, then you won't get anything out of it.
Yeah. Well, it's exactly like what I said in my podcast that I'll link about High Vibe Women. If you think you're too good to, like, come to an event, you're not good enough to speak at it. Mm-hmm. And, like, that is, like, I think a lesson in business is that, like, if you're not, like, willing to be humble, if you're not willing to learn, if you're not willing to, like, look at somebody else who we have people in our lives who are, like, you know, definitely have probably not made as much in revenue as we have. And yet we hire them for stuff.
Yeah. And we learn so much from them.
So much from them, right? Yeah. Because we're willing to learn from anybody. And I think that that's, like, such a big, you know, as much as we're like, don't trust people, like, you know, trust people. But, like, a big piece of that, I think, is just, like, knowing who to trust, how to build those relationships, and taking that personal responsibility, like, yes, it's annoying when people make mistakes. Yes, it's annoying when you don't get the result you want. Like, yes. And sometimes that's on you. And, like, what can you do to own that? And so I think, like, if I could wrap up our, like, 4 years of lessons, I think, like, radical responsibility for your results, it's like anything else in life. Like, I think that is, like, what's needed.
Couldn't agree more. And I had one more point, which I'm just going to throw in here that ties in perfectly, and there might be, like, one or two exceptions to this, but I'd say for the most part, don't outsource anything in your business that you don't already know how to do, at least a little bit.
Yeah. That one's a tough one because I do think eventually you scale to a point. I think early on.
Yeah. I mean, like learn all the different aspects of your business, you know, be in them. We've made this mistake where we've, like, grown pieces and just kind of handed them off to people and then have really no idea what's going on in that section or that area. Or even, like, on the way here, I was trying to think of, like, what examples would not be true for this. And the thing that came to mind was a website. And even if you got a beautiful website custom coded by somebody, then what happens 6 months later when you need to edit it?
Yeah,
right? Like, so I just think there's value to knowing how to do these things in your business and not just totally giving all the power away to all different kind of, like, service providers.
Yeah.
Especially at the beginning. I think at least dabbling in those things and being able to have some control over it and know so that you can know if the person's doing a good job who you're outsourcing to. I feel like that would have saved us a lot of heartache.
Yeah.
We did that in some areas, I think, but
I think we should do an episode another time because we should wrap this up. This is the longest episode I think we've ever done.
It was fun.
Yeah, but I was gonna say we should do an episode on like big CEO energy because I think that that's something that like a lot of people kind of lean into early on is like, oh, I'm a CEO, like I'm gonna outsource everything, and then it crashes and burns a little bit. And I think we experienced that ourselves, and then we like outsourced fucking everything, and then we pulled back, and then we've outsourced. And now I think there's definitely things in our team I don't know how to do for sure, but I think our systems are way better, and we're getting closer and closer. So, I mean, when we do this episode again, our 5-year next year, I'll bring our little cupcake. I think there will be even more lessons. Hopefully less ones, but hopefully we've gained some trust in others. Some faith has been restored. But yeah, Mara, I'm just so grateful. This has been such an amazing 4 years. And if you had told me it would look like this 4 years ago, I like both would have thought we would be way farther. And also, I can't even believe how far we've come. Like it's both, you know, and disappointed that we don't live on a yacht. And I'm so proud of all the things that we've built.
I'm so proud too. It's been such a fun, interesting, crazy roller coaster of 4 years. And I know there was a lot of grievances aired in this episode, but there have been so many highs too. It's been so awesome. It's been like the ride of my life. It's such a privilege to be on with you. So thanks for being my little bestie on this journey.
I love you. I can't wait for year 5 and all that's to come from there. Enjoy, guys. Let us know what resonated with you. Maybe what lesson resonates the most. What was maybe the most shocking?
Yes.
But we love being on this journey with you guys too, because we know that this wouldn't be possible without how amazing our community has been and has rallied with us from day one. So we're just so grateful and so excited. So yeah, let us know what resonated and to listen more. We know that we would not have the success that we've had over these last amazing 4 years if it wasn't for our community. We're so grateful for everyone that we've met, whether that be through events, masterminds, our clients, High Vibe Women, Social Business Club, anything that we have been involved in, we have met the most amazing people. And we know that that has been so core to the way that our business has grown. So we're just so, so grateful to our amazing community and so thankful that you're a part of it.
If you're looking to get more involved with either of our businesses, we always love welcoming new members into our community. So a really cool way you can do that is joining the Social Business Club, which is our community through the Social Snippet, where we teach entrepreneurs how to do their own social. It's an awesome, high vibe monthly community where we have live calls and lots of amazing resources for you to do your own social. And then through the Social Snippet, we have our agency services where we do done-for-you social and podcasting. We also have the Weekly Snippet, which is our weekly newsletter where we have tons of value, awesome tips, blogs, podcasts, everything you need to know about social and podcasting and what's going on in the community. And then last but not least, High Vibe Women, where we run in-person events for female entrepreneurs who are looking to up-level their mindset and get in the room. And those are typically in the GTA, but we're expanding very soon. So stay tuned and follow us at highvibe.women on Instagram for the latest updates.
We're so grateful. Thank you so much for being a part of it all. We can't wait to see where the next 4 years bring us.